It's time to start on our Candy Cane Lane group project. Are you ready? Hey Kimberbell friends, Kristen Som here, and it is time to start on our Candy Cane Lane bench pillow group project. So real quick, the items that we need. So the machine embroidery CD for the Candy Cane Lane bench pillow, and the embellishment kit. I've got mine in a Ziploc bag already because I've already opened it, but the embellishment kit and the fabric kit, and which comes with the backing, by the way, and the thread kit, optional, but I find it really helpful. So Candy Cane Lane bench pillow thread kit. This is the glide threads. So you're also going to want your stabilizers. I am going to be using light mesh cutaway. It's the yellow one, or golden yellow. This will be in the hoop for our quilting, and then fusible backing by Kimberbell. Kimberbell's fusible backing. It's the light green, and this is on the back of every single fabric, every single applique, background fabric and applique pieces, and that will help ward off puckers. So hopefully you've already got your supplies and you're all ready, and already cutting even would be good. So today's project, the first one is called Street Lamp 1. And I have a link to all of the supplies that you need that are from our sponsor. Your Best Friends Quilt Shop is sponsoring this project for Kristen Creates. And I have a link to all of the supplies that I just mentioned. And then also these little envelope packs that I use to keep my fabrics all separated and ready. So it's up to you. If you want, you can choose to pre-cut all of your fabrics and back them with fusible stabilizer. Like I said, I'm using the Kimberbell fusible backing, and you can do that all ahead of time for each of the days, so that once you get fun time ready to play, everything's all ready for you. That's optional, up to you, but I am doing it on this one. So let's go ahead and go over what we need for today, for the first day. So this is the gray with white dots, and I just want to point out that the front and the back are pretty similar, and the fusible backing is pretty similar. So make sure that you've got the front on your before you iron down your stabilizer. So you want to have obviously the stabilizer on the back of the fabric, but just make sure that it's not, wrong side, because it's easy to do since it's such a light gray. So this one, for our main fabric background, it's going to be 6.5 by 10.5. That's what we started at, 6.5 by 10.5. For the light gray with white dots. And as always, back it with fusible stabilizer. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. You want to make sure to have this background fabric really well stabilized. And then we also need the red glitter sheet, and we're going to cut this to 2.5 by 4. And before we use it, you're going to want to make sure to take off the topping. This is just a sticky topping that we don't need on our embroidery. And I'll show you later as we get working on it, but we are going to iron this down, press it, I think it's called, because it's not really moving the iron. You're just kind of warming it and getting it to adhere enough that it will not bubble or anything like that. So your red glitter, this is in your embellishment kit, and you want to cut it to 2.5 by 4. All right, and then we want that, I think it was called, let me see, white embroidery topping. White embroidery topping. This also is in your embellishment kit. It's a larger piece because we need it for a couple of items. So cut it down to 2.5 by 4, and it's very staticky here in Idaho. So 2.5 by 4. That also might be because it was in that envelope pack, actually, now that I think about it. And then the mylar. So the mylar is gold on one side and silver on the other side. So you want to make sure to be using the gold side, because this is going to be for our lights on this design today. So this one you're going to cut also to 2.5 by 1.5. 2.5 by 1.5 for the gold mylar. And then batting. Don't forget your batting. So Kimberbell has project batting, and everybody loves it. I haven't I haven't tried it yet. I haven't purchased it yet, so I don't have that. So I'm using Warm and Natural, and there's been a lot of questions, what batting do I use? So if you have the Kimberbell batting, it's the right thickness. It's the right one for this project if you have it. And if not, then use what you've got. So I'm using Warm and Natural, but your batting, you want to cut this to 5 by 9. And the way that we determine that size is our final cut size. So if you look on the directions, so the directions come on a PDF that are on your CD. And if you open that up it'll tell you, these are the supplies you need, these are the instructions, and then at the very bottom, it always has the final cut size. Because remember, I told you that we want this to be 6.5 by 10.5, but we're gonna embroider on it, do all of our stuff on it, and then we are gonna cut it before we're done with that block. And so our final cut size for this block is 4.5 by 8.5. And so that means that we want a piece of batting that's 5 by 9. I always cut mine a 1/2 inch larger than the final cut size. And when we do our quilting, so I'm going to show you how, we have some newbies doing it with us, which is so fun. And when we do the quilting in the hoop, the Kimberbell quilting, they've got it like dummy proofed for us. It's so great. So the number 1 is the placement stitch for the batting, and we do that right on our stabilizer, and then we lay down our batting and it tacks it down. That's step number 2, and then we're going to trim it. So that's why you want just enough to be able to trim it, but it really doesn't matter what size as long as it's large enough to be able to tack down with step number 2. Then step number 3 is the placement stitch for our main fabric. So we'll do that on the stabilizer as well. And then number 4 is the tack down or basting stitch for our main fabric. And then number 5 is the actual quilting design. So speaking of quilting designs, so today you can choose any quilting design that you want, and I'm thinking about doing a variation and not just doing all one, but that's totally up to you. So Kimberbell has a pack, it's called the Candy Cane Lane Bundle. And in that bundle, there is the, what is it called? Christmas 2, which is the super cute one with candy canes and peppermints. And you would do that on all of your background fabrics if you choose to do all the same, and if you choose to use the Candy Cane Lane Bundle. And then for your borders, there's one for the inner border and one for the outer border. And that one is called Christmas 2 border. So in that bundle is both of those. One is the border and one is the Candy Cane Lane. And those are $14 together. You have to buy it on the Kimberbell website, but I do ask that you use the link that's in the video description underneath this video, because that will give a little credit to our sponsor that's sponsoring this project for Kristen Creates. So like I said, that bundle is $14. But if you were to buy the Christmas 2, that one is $8. And if you buy the border, then that one is $6. I could have those separated. I think it's right though. $6 for one, $8 for the other. And the bundle is $14. So what I'm trying to point out is there's no price difference. So you can buy them separately. You can mix and match. You can do whatever, or you can buy that bundle and just use the peppermint and candy canes and the border, which is the really cute snowflake. So that's totally up to you. I'm going to decide as I work on it, but I know I'm going to start with this Candy Cane Lane one for the first quilting, and then probably do Christmas trees and snowflakes. And I like to mix it up. I like to do things differently. I did that on Twilight Boulevard and I really liked how that came out. So totally up to you. But just know that you do need to buy it from the Kimberbell website. There's a direct link in the video description that will take you to Kimberbell, and yet also give a little credit to our sponsor. So it will credit your best friend's quilt shop. So if you can do that, great. So we talked about the batting, the quilting design. So for the quilting design, since our final cut size is 4.5 by 8.5, that means that we want to use a quilting design that is 4 by 8. And like I said, you can use any quilting design, but you want it to be size 4 by 8. That part's really important. And I've seen where people have picked the wrong size and then you're trying to fix after the fact, and it's not an easy thing. So 4 by 8. And if you are using a 5 by 7 hoop, if your largest hoop is a 5 by 7 hoop, then you would want to do the 4 by 4 design twice. And that's really easy to do. I will try to also make time to give a little tutorial on how to do that, but it is a very simple process. And so if you are doing, let's see, 4 by 8, so actually it doesn't matter. So if you're using 5 by 7, I will try and make a separate tutorial for how to do the 4 by 4 twice. But if you have a 6 by 10 hoop, then the 4 by 8 will fit in there just fine. Any larger hoop, anything larger will work fine. So that's all the steps of what we're going to do today. I think now we just need to go to the machine and get some playing time in. So let's go ahead and do it, and I will show you how to do that quilting in the hoop. We've got a few extra things on here. So one quick thing is I am using the thread from our thread kit. Your Best Friend's Quilt Shop sent me this thread kit, and so I'm very excited about it. I am using this. And I will show pictures of each step of which colors I'm using. There is a thing in here about the wreath. So the wreath, you can use, what is it called? Water soluble bobbin thread if you want. I'm just going to use regular thread. So the wreath itself is with green thread, and our bobbin thread, my bobbin thread, will be white. So it's easy for me to see it and to trim it. But if you have trouble, I'm going to show you a few tips. So you can use your phone and zoom in to be able to see those bobbin stitches. You can use your reader glasses. That's what I'm going to do. But I haven't found it difficult, and I'll show you my tips along the way. Or you can buy water soluble thread, and I heard that people are trying that out and they're liking it, so go for that. That's certainly an option. I would assume that you just run the design and then squirt it with water. Hopefully that's as easy it is, and then pull up those bobbin stitches. Anyway, I don't know exactly because I haven't done that, and I don't have water soluble bobbin thread, so I'm going to show you the way that I'm going to do it. And this looks like a really easy design for our first one. So I think we're all good. And let's get playing. Okay, everyone, now that we have the quilting design all done, isn't that so cute? Now we're going to do the street lamp design. So we need to make a small adjustment to the street lamp design because it's going to automatically go to the center, but we want to move it down, and it's really easy to do that. So once you load the design, we're just going to go to, excuse me, embroidery first. All right, so what I like to do is I use this button here to show me where it's going to stitch. And as you can see by this little green crosshair in the middle, that is the middle of the design, and we want to see where the bottom is going to stitch. Excuse me, because you can see that it's at the middle of the block right now, and we want to see where it's going to stitch the bottom of the block. So if we go to this button here on my Dream Machine 2, I'm sure there's similar buttons for every machine, and then it opens up this, and we're just going to push this one down here that goes to the bottom. And you can see it brings it down to the bottom, and it's showing you that it's going to stitch the bottom of the design here. And over here, you can see the little green crosshair. See that little green crosshair at the center at the bottom? And so that shows us where the bottom of the design is, but we don't want the bottom of the design to be up here because then it'll look like it's floating. It's pretty close though, but we want it to actually go where our batting ends. So you have to feel where the batting ends, which if you just feel right here, it's right about here. So it's about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch above this line. And that is going to be where we're going to want to start the design. So it's very simple. We're just going to move the design down. And to do that, we go back to the edit button, which takes away that first screen. Click edit again, and we're going to move. Click to move. And then we have these buttons that will allow us to move the actual design. So if we come over here and you feel for that batting, like I said, we're not far off actually. And then you hit the down button, this one here, and you can see how the design will move down. So you can move down, 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 and then just feel around for that batting, and you really want the design to end at your batting line. So like I said, you can just feel where that batting is, but another option if you prefer to be super precise is you can get your tape measure. This is going to be hard to do one-handed, but you get the gist of it, and measure from this basting stitch here and measure up 1/4 inch, and then use a disappearing ink line, draw a line at that 1/4 inch, and you can use that as where your start guide should be. Okay, so I drew a line. That makes it pretty easy, but you can see the batting. See how you can see the little lip of where the batting ends. And that right there is our 1/4 inch seam allowance from the batting to our cut line, which this isn't actually a cut line, but it's close. So this is where our basting stitch is. So we're going to do a 1/4 inch up from the basting stitch. So once you have that, then go ahead and it's easier if I put my foot down and I can see, and then I just, again, I move that down button on my machine until it looks like it's right over that new line that I created. So either way, you can eyeball it, you can draw a precise line, but you want it about a 1/4 inch above this basting stitch. And like I said, that's really easy to do. You just use the buttons on your machine. And let's see, do I have it where I want it? Maybe down one more. Sorry, hold on. Okay, so once you have it where you want your stitching to be, right, a 1/4 inch above that basting stitch, then you're going to go back to your machine here, and you've already used this down button to get the design where you want it. You can see from that crosshair we're at the bottom. So we're going to go back out of this edit screen, and then we can use this button to go back to the middle. The center, and then we're back up at the center. And you don't have to, but you can also check where the top is. So from this crosshair, we can see we're at the center of the design. We want to see what the top looks like, so we just push that button up there, and that green crosshair is now up at the top. And you can see on your fabric that you'll have a little bit of quilting up at the top, whereas if we had moved the design in the wrong space, then we'd be wonky with our quilting design. So we're all good. So go back to the center, which actually you don't have to do that, but I often do, and then exit out of the edit screen. And we are going to make sure to bypass this. I mean, you could stitch it, but then you're going to have to take it out, so why bother? Since we already did our quilting, we don't need this. This is the placement guide for our main fabric. And if we were not quilting it, so they would, fold it an inch and do a bunch of stuff that we don't need to do because we quilted. So we're going to bypass that step, and that's very easy to do as well. So to do that, we go down here to this button that's got the plus and the minus, and we're going to just go down. So here's our placement stitch. We don't want that, so we're going to go down to the next, and that one is our basting stitch that is going to hold all of the fabric down. Well, we already did that in our quilting design, so we don't need that one either. So we're going to again go down, and now we're at the first stitch of our quilting design, and we're all centered and ready. We've got it just where we want it to be, so we're ready to go ahead and get started. And just so you know, this is the start point, and we're all ready. Easy, right? Okay, so once you have all of the stitching done, it is time to cut those bobbin threads. And I recommend doing it while it's still in the hoop because then it's nice and tight. And you can zoom in and see them really well. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's not that hard. So you want to make sure not to cut these. This is the satin stitching here. Don't cut that. That's what's holding down all of these little fringe parts. But you can see, I'm going to try and show you around my camera. So see this white right here? That is where we're going to cut. And then there's another one on the further edge. I'm not showing you very well with my marker here, but I'll add another photo that helps describe it. But I used white. I used regular white bobbin thread. You could use yellow. You could use whatever you think is going to make it easier for you to see it. And like I said from the start, you can use water soluble. I've heard positive and negatives on that. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to. I have not had a problem with these making fringes before. This one is, I would say, a little bit lighter than others that I've done, maybe because it's 2 layers. So there's this one here, so just make sure to stay away from the satin stitching, but it's really hard for me to show you with my around the camera. But anyway, there's 2. There's one further out and one further in, but just stay away from the satin stitching. Like I said, that holds everything in. But you can use your camera to zoom in on it. But bottom line is you're just going to follow that white and put your bobbin, or I'm sorry, your, this, what is it called? You're going to use this to go all the way around, and I'll show you more in photos, but this, it works really well. So don't be afraid. We'll get there. Seam ripper, that's the word, seam ripper. All right, let's try it. All right, I'm not completely sure you'll be able to see this, but I'm going to try. So I just want to point out, I know that this can be intimidating, but it's really not too bad at all. And as you go around and lift these loops, you'll know if you missed some of the bobbin thread on the back because they won't lift up. So just go around and lift, lift, lift. Hopefully you can see this. It's a lot easier if you're not trying to do it on a video, but you just go around and lift them. And like I said, when you get to an area that doesn't come up easily, then you know to cut more on the back. So you can see, just lift these up. Very hard to do while holding it this way. But so you're going to do all of the top layer that's near the satin stitch in the middle, and then you're also going to do the ones in the back. Let's see, those come up too, because we cut 2 areas, 2 sets of bobbin stitches. So on the back, you don't cut this satin stitch that's right in the middle here, but you cut right around it, and then you cut one more. And you just look for that white bobbin thread or whatever color bobbin thread you used. But really, it's just a simple line around that satin stitch. Don't hit that satin stitch, but around it, and then around one more. And then when you get to the front, you just pull them up. And like I said, it's a lot easier if you're not holding your hoop and trying to do it. But I want you to be able to see it if at all possible. So anyway, hopefully this is giving you a visual. When I'm not holding it, I just kind of lift it. But I'm kind of picking at it instead because it's harder to hold this way. But and then again, if they're not coming up, like the ones closer to this lamp post, I can see that I missed some because they're still very tight. There they go. But anyway, you can always just turn it over to the back and make sure that you have a straight line that's all cut. And hopefully this is helping give you a visual of what it looks like. You're just cutting the bobbin stitches on the back, and then on the front lifting them up.